All right, the Commerce and Labor and Employment Subcommittee will come to order. Clerk will take the roll.
Senator Marsden, Senator Obenshain, Senator Servo.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So we're going to go at ease for a minute until Senator Marsden walks in. But I just wanted to get a quorum here so we could get a proxy and be ready to go. But Marsden will be back in like 60 seconds. So I want him to be here for the presentation. Okay? So let's go at ease for a second.
Do what you want, Bryce.
Okay, committee will come to order. Senator Peake, you're number one, and Reeves is in the hole. I'm sorry, on deck, and then Favol is in the hole, if she shows up. Senator Peake, tell us about...
Senate Bill 538, wage theft.
Yeah.
You ready, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sorry.
Thank you, members of the committee. So, the past couple years, going back to 2020, the General Assembly has passed some bills on wage theft. I think Senator Peterson started it, and we did a little amendment last year. But what has come up...
It was actually Senator Eben, right?
Was it Senator Eben last year?
Yeah.
I think
Peterson
Eben
did some surgery on it, I think. But yeah, it was Eben's bill.
Eben
yeah.
and Peterson.
Yeah.
And what we are finding from the general contractors, and then what this bill tries to do, is move it down the line to bring in the subcontractors and then the subcontractors. And so what was happening, the genesis of the bill, subcontractors weren't paying their employees. They were not getting paid at all, and that bill made the general contractor responsible for the subs and the sub-subs employees to make sure they got paid. So what we are doing now, and what the purpose of this bill is to make sure, so the subcontractor gets a certification from its subs and employees that they have all been paid. And as you know, privity of contract, the general doesn't have it with the subs. But this will allow them to get the certification that all their employees have been paid. And what we'll do is it will identify the bad actor who has not paid its employees much quicker, so people know, the general knows who to go after. And that's the main gist. And then the second portion of it, the statute allowed there to be evidence that the subs had paid through that certificate. This will now make it a valid defense, which I think is really only going to affect any cases in federal court, since we don't have summary judgment of any substance in state court. But that valid defense, we have an amendment, substitute.
Okay. I'll move the substitute. Senator Marsden will second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Nobody's opposed. Okay.
Well, I have an amendment in the nature of substitute,
Okay.
correct? I
Can we
think we're
distribute
trying.
that?
Yeah.
That's what you've been describing.
Yes.
Can we see that? I've been looking at this other one.
It's online, but you can have my.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Hold on. I can look it up. Hold on.
And it's very similar to a house.
I'm not
for-
sure Senator Marsden can look it up.
We don't like to mention house, but that's okay. And I've got some folks. I understand.
Tommy Norman's not here, so it's okay. All right.
And that is the gist of the bill. It makes it easier. Now the general contractor can rely on its subs and a certification from its subs and their subs that they've actually paid their employees. And I've got some folks here.
Senator Marsden.
Just thank you. Just have a question.
Okay,
So
Senator Marsden.
This certification, if you will, it does not have to contain any proof or documentation. It's just an affidavit that says, "I swear I've paid everybody," and of course that is all oftentimes a source of disagreement between the employees and that person. And people interpret full payment, I guess, in different ways, and this just kind of takes them off the hook just for saying, "Hey, I paid everybody."
Mr. Chairman, Senator Marsden, it would not take them off the hook. It just makes it a valid defense
Yes.
that they've got it. So if somebody false affidavit and employees come in and say, "No, they didn't pay me," then it is not a valid defense. So it just gives them a valid defense. So if somebody contradicts that and says, "No, they didn't pay us," I don't think it would affect general contractor would still be.
Mr. Chairman,
on
follow
the
up.
hook.
Okay.
Would that- would
further?
that
Go
mean
ahead,
that-
Senator Marsden.
Would that mean then, Senator Peake, that the employees next, would be a court action?
Well, Mr. Chairman, Senator Meyer, yes, I think that's what this whole bill is, sets up a court
Court
action.
action,
So
it's court
it's already in a court action.
Marsden, let me ask a couple questions of council and try and get clear on this. So I'm looking at the substitute. It appears to me that the substitute has the same language regarding the or similar language, practically affect the same language on lines 44 and 45 about changing the or 44 through 46, changing the it from a statement under oath to just a written certification. That's the same as the original. Are the new changes that are in other places, is that just kind of clarifying stuff, or is there any substantive legal difference with the changes on, like, for example, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 25, where they're...
I think it's
Yep.
clear. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, you were asking, counsel, but we're just making sure we're getting subcontractors and subcontractors was
Right.
the
So it's just
point of
that stuff's more
language.
just clarifying than anything, I think, to make right. Okay, and then
Excuse me, Tom. You go ahead.
Senator Peake. So the other, I just want to make sure everybody's clear what we have in front of us. The original language, and I think it was Senator Evans' bill, but I believe this language was part of Senator Peterson's amendment, was that the general could obtain this written certification, but it had to be under oath, and which yours bill is not under oath. And secondly, I think Senator Peterson's bill, that piece of paper could be offered as evidence in a case, but it was not a silver bullet. It was just evidence that they could wave around in front of a jury and say, "Look, we were told they got paid." That's what the original bill does. Your bill basically makes it a silver bullet. So they got that piece of paper not under oath, the case gets tossed, right?
It would be not in state court, first of all, because you're not getting summary judgment in state court. So it would only apply in federal court. And it says it's a valid defense, but if the person suing contradicts it, then there is an issue of genuine material fact. So even a federal court's not going to toss it. But I will say, I will check. I don't have any problem with it still being under oath.
I get that.
So I'm not sure that was, I don't know if that was their intention, but I understand your point. I'd be happy to make sure that it's an affidavit or whatever under oath to keep it consistent with that.
I get that. If it was going from not under oath to under oath, you might be buying a fiscal impact statement, but because it's already under oath, I don't think you would. But
Yeah.
in any event, I mean, if you can make that amendment if you wanted, but I'm not sure that'll help your chances. But with me, it won't at least. But
Well, I'll let my folks speak, and then we'll see if we want to make that amendment. I'll check.
Yeah.
Is that amendment fine? Yeah, we'll make that. I'll make that amendment that it's still
all
under
right.
oath.
So I will move to add under oath to lines 44 and 45 and 46. Senator Marsden, you second that? I second. Okay. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Nobody's opposed. So that amendment's made. Okay.
And after that amendment, I can't believe you want to kill it then. But that's just
Well, we can take testimony on it. I kind of liked what we did last time, but and you'll have your chance at full committee too. So why don't we take testimony? Why don't we first of all take? I always like to do the rough method and take the opponents first because I think that helps to focus the discussion. So anybody opposed to this bill, why don't you come up and tell us what's wrong with it so that the people in favor of it can sort of refute you while they explain their view.
Yep. Just come on here. We need to have you on the mic so that the stream can pick it up.
Yeah. You don't have to. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, Greg Ackerman with the DC Metro Building Trades. We supported the bill that passed in 2020, and it's been very successful in ensuring that particularly vulnerable immigrant workers are actually able to go after their contractors for wage theft. We appreciate the patron bringing this bill forward and want to work with the general contractor community to fix the issue of wage theft, but we still believe that this bill creates a huge loophole for general contractors not to police their job site. By simply stating it's a valid defense by obtaining a written certification. We still see many subcontractors that would be willing to take that risk and still misclassify and cheat their employees out of wages and maintain a competitive advantage against responsible contractors that pay their workers. So we kindly ask you to oppose this bill.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Marsden.
Greg, the issue with subcontractors and what have you, are getting down to folks who are in the business, out of the business, here today, gone tomorrow, set up something quickly to do something. Is when we get down to that level, is that what we're talking about sometimes?
Mr. Chairman and Senator Marsden, you're exactly right. Oftentimes workers will work for what we call a fly-by-night company. They'll work for that subcontractor, and if they decide that they want to sue that subcontractor for non-payment, that subcontractor simply disappears. Now this puts the onus on the general contractor to make sure that those workers are paid, while at the same time allowing general contractors to exercise their indemnity rights against that subcontractor to ensure that the general contractor is not out of money. But essentially, we just feel like it's much easier for the general contractor to chase that money as opposed to many vulnerable immigrant workers.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Marsden.
Pardon my ignorance on this, but does any, when you're doing construction jobs, and I just have no direct knowledge of it, are some of the bonds that are put in place, do they ever deal with the payment of employees?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Marsden, yes, there are certain payment and performance bonds that general contractors can go to. There are also, indemnity bonds that can be used to cover this sort of thing. So there are numerous avenues that general contractors can use to ensure that they're not on the hook for these types of issues.
All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you. Anybody else opposed? Why don't we take the folks in favor?
One more opposed.
There's somebody else opposed? Oh, okay. I'm sorry. All right. Try and be quick. This is our first bill, and we got about an hour and 10 minutes to knock out 4 more bills. So go ahead.
Make this real quick. Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, I'm Eric Lambert. I'm the Assistant Business Manager for International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 666 here in Richmond, Virginia. Part of my job is to go out and visit electricians, talk to them, try to organize them into a union. And we see that wage theft and misclassifications are rampant problem in construction. And it'll be, thanks to the great work of the legislative body last session, we were able to recoup some of those lost wages and stand a much better chance of successful claim. General contractors now taking a greater role in vetting the monitoring of the labor practices of the subcontractors, which would reward responsible law-abiding contractors. SB 538 would create a big loophole for the general contractors and to just get off scot-free without having to pay the subcontractors and subs what they are supposed to overlook. So we're asking that you not pass SB 538.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else opposed?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jason Parker, Virginia State Building Construction Trades Council. The problem with this is that it's going to go down to the sacrificial piece. I mean, the whole point of general contractor liability was to have skin in the game all the way through the bidding team. And if you do this, basically it's not going to be an efficient way to find the bad actor. It's just going to be those sacrificial companies that you can keep on doing the same routine you've had for years going on in the state of Virginia. And they can just reinvent this over and over and over again. And by the way, they're involved in criminal activity half the time. So, I mean, that's not going to bother them in the least.
Mr. Chairman?
Senator Marsden.
So what you are saying is that the law as it currently exists has been an improved way of dealing with these problems, and you feel like this would weaken it?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I think that's it for the opposition. Anybody else in favor?
Morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the subcommittee. Brandon Robinson with the Associated Builders and Associated General Contractors. I got to get my name right this morning. We represent commercial construction. We thank the patron for bringing this bill. We fully support this bill, and I want to just address a couple of the items we've heard about. This actually makes a more effective way at getting at the problem of wage theft. Not less effective. The penalties remain in the statute. We're not rolling back anything. What we're doing is just creating a faster pathway to get to the bad actors. So let's take a recent public project where there was accusations of wage theft. The accusations occurred. We brought in the general. We brought in the
You're talking
sub.
about the project that was about 500 yards away?
Possibly. We're talking about we brought in the general, we brought in the sub, we brought in the sub, and everyone had to lawyer up, and it was a lot of time and process and lawyers' fees, and eventually they got the bad actors, and they were accordingly prosecuted. But the general contractor and the subcontractor involved, who were good actors, had to go through all that legal rigmarole, so to speak. This bill, had it been in place, would have allowed them to use this valid defense to remove themselves from that process, and we could have gotten to the bad actors faster and gotten them prosecuted faster and recovered those wages for the workers faster. So this is a more effective way of getting at. It doesn't roll back.
So I don't understand what you mean. I mean, both of these things require written certification. They both require documents in writing. Just one says it's a valid defense and one says it's evidence. How does that speed anything up?
So currently...
How does your version speed it up more than
Correct.
the other way?
Yes, sir. Currently in code, only the general contractor at the very top can use that certification. So part of the change in this bill allows the sub and then the sub to use that same certification. So basically by process of elimination, we get out the good actors until the bad is the one remained. Because there are multiple tiers to a project, 4 and 5 tiers,
Yeah, but wouldn't
until
the solution,
we get to where that...
but wouldn't the
wage
solution to
theft
that just be to expand this bill to subs and subs instead of making it a valid defense?
Well, the bill does both. Because the valid defense...
I know what the bill does, but I mean, it seems to me what you're saying is the problem is the subs can't use it. But so if you make it available to the subs, doesn't that solve the problem? Why do you have to say it's a valid defense? I don't understand why that necessarily improves or speeds up anything.
Because it's our view and our council's view that as evidence still, they wouldn't have been able to get out of the process. They would still have to go through the process of proving in court, whereas a valid defense strengthens their ability to get out of the legal process sooner, which again is how we get to it faster.
Okay. All right. Anything else you want to say?
No,
I mean,
sir.
the question I have is, I mean, I'm not clear why the companies just can't avoid this problem by bonding off their risk. I mean, why can't you just buy a bond to deal with all this stuff?
You can't bond wages on a project.
All right.
And subcontractors, especially as you go down through the tiers, often cannot get bonds because they're smaller companies and they don't have the financial capital to get bonds. So often it's only the general contractor on the larger projects or maybe the large subs who are able to bond that risk. As you get down through the tiers, the bonding goes away, ostensibly.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Senator Peake, you want to wrap it up? Or, I'm sorry, is there anybody else? Yeah, sorry.
Mr. Chairman, I'll be
I see Ms.
brief.
Hammond also queued up here. So, sorry.
Rob Bohannon, representing the Richmond Area Municipal Contractors Association. Appreciate Senator Peake bringing this bill. We represent heavy construction industries here in the Richmond metro area and appreciate the efforts to make this a little smoother and more efficient.
Okay, thanks. All right, Ms. Hammond.
I'll be the fastest.
All
Julia
right.
Hammond on behalf of Associated Builders and Contractors. We strongly support the bill.
Great. Okay. Anybody else in support? Okay. Now, Senator Peak, you want to wrap us up?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just think it does allow us to identify the bad actors first. It does not get the general contractor off the hook. And valid defense is really not much different than evidence in a state court proceeding. So federal court, you've still got to go through it.
We have to agree to disagree about that, but okay.
Are they granting summary judgment up in Northern Virginia?
No, but you can do a request for admissions and attach that document to get them to admit the authenticity of it, and then use it as a summary judgment motion. And if it says valid defense, it's game over, I would think. But I don't know.
Anyway, I think, and we amended it to make sure it's under oath, so somebody's going to get in trouble. Then you got perjury and criminal charges, everything else. So it makes sense to add subs and sub-subs to the bill on the wage theft.
Got it. All right, Senator Peake, I would just tell you that I would support your bill if it took out the valid defense stuff and did everything else you did, but because I think that would actually make it better. But that doesn't get you what you want, I don't think. So.
Well, I think it helps to add the subs and subs. We'll strike the valid defense part. Just leave it as it was. Leave it as evidence, and let's see if that doesn't help speed it up and help identify the bad actors quicker.
So and counsel, can you just correct me? If we did that, then subs and sub-subs could also use the would also be subject to liability if the sub under them didn't pay.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Peake, yes, if you did said take this reinserted the stricken language so it read, as evidence, a general contractor or subcontractor may offer a written certification under oath, etc.
About the subcontractor, yeah.
Yeah.
You have sub in there
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, with the sub, if it says.
Or is subcontractor
Yeah.
a general term for
Yeah.
both subs and sub-subs?
Yes, the sub-subs. So we would, with the idea, we'll make the appropriate amendment to change valid defense to evidence like it was in the original bill and just add sub and sub-subs.
Yeah, I would support it at this stage, subject to me vetting that further. But I think that might actually improve the situation.
Moves it down the
some.
road a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll make that motion. Senator Marsden.
Second.
Senator Marsden seconds. And all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Senator Obenshain is he's a yes without the amendments.
All right, and
but
we'll
I'm
work
sure
on-
he'll probably still be a yes, so we'll vote him yes.
Yeah, and we'll work on the amendments.
Okay. And my support is conditional. I got to run it by some other lawyers that are smarter on this than me, but my inclination is that it's
And we'll have you run it by before we present it to the whole
Okay.
committee.
Did we
Yeah.
just vote on the amendments, or did we vote on the?
Oh, I'm sorry. We voted on the amendments. Okay. So is there a motion to recommend reporting as amended? You make the motion. I'll second that. And all those in favor? Aye. Obenshain's an aye. Okay.
Thank
Now
you,
you're done.
members of the committee.
Okay. Senator Reeves, you're next up.
Mr. Chairman.
And we heard this bill, I think, a little bit last week, right?
Yeah, we had quite a bit of
Now
dialogue on
you
it.
brought a substitute. I'll
would
move the
move
substitute. Senator Marsden, you second it?
I second that.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Nobody's opposed? Okay, so the substitute is before the committee. Is this it? I have it. Here, you can look at my copy.
Mr. Chair, this takes into your recommendations, Senator Marston's recommendations, some recommendations from VEC, as well as the administration supports it. But what this does is take it back up to the 30,000 foot where we're doing business best practices, a broader general guidelines to clean up unemployment fraudulent claims. So it gives more of a general guidelines per, Mr. Chairman, per your liking, and I think everybody now at this point is kind of on board, and it incorporates what you, Senator Marston, VEC wanted, which is some business best practices.
Right.
That's the bill.
Right. And Senator Reeves, I spoke with, I ran your ideas by Jay Lark, and who just did a massive review of all this, and they agreed that more guidance would be helpful in the nature of what you'd proposed. And I think the way you've reworked the bill, it's written more like a statutory language that we would see for something like this. And there's been a lot of problems at VEC, and I think everybody recognizes that. So
If you want to hear from folks again, I don't think we need to.
We already
but-
heard from people last time, yeah. So bill's been cleaned up. You ready to act, Senator Marsden? Okay, is there a motion to report? I'll second that. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Senator Obenshane's an aye. Nobody's opposed. So
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
thank you, Senator Reeves. Next up, I think we have Senator Favola has a bill, and then I also have a bill on the same subject matter. But just so everybody in the room is clear what's going on, Senator Favola has a bill for agency-directed. Senate Bill 624 is for agency-directed sick leave for agency-directed home care workers.
Correct.
Who are also in my bill. I'm going to make a motion to remove them from my bill.
That's
So that
fine.
we will have two separate bills on two separate policies. So that's what I plan to do on mine. So with that understanding,
I would support that.
Senator Favola, why don't you present your bill?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay, so my bill actually parallels exactly a bill that was passed. I believe it was in the special session. I don't know if it was special session 1 or 2. I think it was the second one. So this body has already passed a bill that allows consumer-directed home care workers to get up to 5 days of paid sick leave. Consumer-directed means it would be an individual who goes out and hires somebody who, of course, is getting reimbursed through Medicaid. My bill would cover agency-directed personnel. So frequently, folks who need home care would call an agency and say, I need somebody to come in and help me with day-to-day living activities. My bill would cover those employees. Frequently, these agencies are under contract under our Medicaid managed care plan, so they do get reimbursement. The agencies get the Medicaid reimbursement, and I'm sure they're going to say they can't provide sick leave without additional money. I'm not sure that I completely buy that, but that will be the argument. I think the nexus of this bill is our most vulnerable patients, people who very much, sometimes have immunodeficiency issues. They certainly have mobility issues. They frequently don't have a whole range of sort of life skill mobility faculties. They're vulnerable. There are older folks, there are disabled folks, and the people who serve them need to be healthy. The people who serve them need to be able to take a day off from work when they're sick, because otherwise they'll be transmitting their germs to, again, the very vulnerable clients they are serving. I think this is a common sense bill. It is the right thing to do on many levels. So, having said that, I don't know if I have any speakers, but I certainly hope that it is the wish of this committee to move the bill forward to the full committee.
Thank you, Senator Favola. Do you have anybody to testify in favor?
I did not line up folks, but
Oh.
I guess I do have somebody.
Okay. Interfaith, come on up and let us know how you feel. And I saw somebody else with a hand up. You can come on up and get in line. I don't think you have to be on the mic. You can just testify from there.
Sit here then.
This camera picks all the noise, right?
To be. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Be on a mic. It's nice to have things recorded, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
That's what we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Serve the public.
Okay.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Committee.
All right.
I'm Kim Bobo, Virginia Interfaith Center. We strongly support this bill. We think this is an important step forward, and we thank the patron for her constant leadership on trying to move forward paid sick days. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Next up.
Hi, Julia Newton, SCIU Virginia 512, and we support this bill because when people are sick, they need to stay home, and that's the right thing to do. We support paid sick days for all workers. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Anybody else in support?
Good morning. I'm Kayla Mock with the United Food and Commercial Workers Union Local 400. We also support this bill. We believe providing the most vulnerable among us keep our communities safe. Thank you.
Okay. Is that it for in favor? Okay. Anybody opposed to the bill? Nobody's opposed.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Senator Marsden.
Favola, The
Senator Marsden.
the sick days, how are they accrued?
They would be accrued, I think, based on hours worked. If you're full-time, it would be no more than 5 days a year. You would be covered if you work an average of 20 hours per week. Is that a complete answer, Thomas?
All right, Mr. Stevens.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Fuller, yes, ma'am, it's accurate.
I always feel better when he tells me I've
All
given
right.
an accurate response.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Stevens is always right. Yes, Senator Marsden.
I'm going to do something terrible here and do I told you so. But a couple of years ago, I said, let's do 1 day a year. We'd be entering our 3rd day this year.
Let's just do more, Senator Marsden. We can do it. We can
could-
get there.
Well, how it impacts our it puts a higher fiscal impact on things to go that way right away. But we are where we are. But sometimes gradualism is a smart thing. But at any rate, thank you.
Okay.
I will just say,
Okay, Senator Favol.
my one final comment, Mr. Chairman. Again, if individuals are not permitted to stay home when they're sick, they're being forced to choose between feeding their families or paying their rent, and they will go to work not feeling well and passing those germs on to our most vulnerable. This is a public health issue. Please support this bill.
Okay, thank you, Senator Favola. And I'm sure you noticed the $15 million fist, so this isn't the last committee you'll be in.
I will argue that that's also money we can leverage because we're getting about a 50% match on federal money through Medicaid. So this is a leveraging bill.
Got it. Senator Marsden.
I think obviously this has to be re-referred to
Finance.
to finance. So
Even though they haven't asked for it yet, but I'm sure they will.
They will.
So move to report and re-refer to finance.
Okay, and I'll second that motion. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and Senator Obenshain's opposed. Got it. All right. Thank you, Senator Favola. Next bill is my bill, so I'm going to hand the gavel over to Senator Marsden. Here's the gavel.
Don't I get the thing that goes with it?
Okay, you get the thing too. All right.
Damn state property. All right, here we go. Senator Serval, you have Senate Bill 352.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have Senate Bill 352, and I have a series of amendments I'd like to make, which I think Mr. Stevens has prepared. So I'd move the amendments. I'll explain. You going to second my amendments?
I'll second.
Okay. Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Tom, are you going to hand them out in writing, or are you going to?
I was just getting them online.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'll explain them.
Please
I'll explain them to.
Do you want to explain the amendments, or do you want to have him report them?
Yeah. So first of all, I'm taking out the agency-directed healthcare workers that we just passed in Senator Favola's bill, and that reduces the fiscal impact on my bill by $15 million to I think about $800,000. That's one amendment, and the second amendment strikes. What does it do? Well, it basically redefines grocery store workers so that it picks up everybody who works in a grocery store area of a store and not just people that work in grocery stores. So in other words, it would pick up places like Walmart, Costco,
Senator
Target.
Serval,
Yeah.
question for you.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, in those big stores where they have the grocery section in the back, Target does it,
Yeah.
Walmart, and what have you. My assumption is that employees are interchangeable, and that you might be working in one part of the store in the hardware section, and the next day they've got you stocking groceries. Depending on labor and what have you. How would that work in determining who is a grocery worker and who is working somewhere else?
I think the way the language was going to read is that it would say grocery store worker means an employee primarily engaged in the retail sale of food, right? So it would be a question, I guess, for ultimately a judge as to whether or not that person's duties were primarily relating to food or not.
Yeah,
So
follow up. Yeah, Senator.
That's how it would work out.
Senator
yeah.
Serval,
Uh-huh.
because the way those stores very often operate is that you will pick up your groceries, you're going to pick up some other things, you're going to go to the checkout, and that checkout person is involved in the retail sale of groceries, but they're also in charge of the retail sale of other products. So, is that in your judgment a matter for a judge to sort out, or is there any way to drill down and talk about the majority of time they spend, or not involved in cashiers, or how do we pick that up?
Right now, the way the bill is worded, it would be up to, I think, a judge at the end of the day. Of course, one way to address that might be for an enactment clause asking somebody to develop guidance to retailers as to how to comply with that.
I think that might be a wise idea because, in this environment, I think workers are employers are trying to keep their workers as flexible as possible to fill holes, throughout their operation, to make sure that you get people cross-trained in different aspects of that. So I think that that's a good thing, and I would so move.
I'll second that motion. But Mr. Stevens, who would be the appropriate agency to do that, like VEC or Department of Commerce?
Mr. Chairman, Department of Labor and Industry.
Dole, okay.
Okay, we'll make it to Labor and Industry. We've adopted the amendment. All in favor, say aye. Aye. We're good to go.
Okay, thanks. So having made those amendments, basically what the bill does now is it applies existing sick leave law to healthcare workers and grocery store workers. And I think it wasn't until this pandemic that I think a lot of people realized just how vulnerable these people are who are on our front lines. I mean, I remember the first few months of the pandemic, and when nobody wanted to leave their house, but the grocery store workers had to go out because people got to eat. And I poked around online a bit, and at least according to some people, there's 178 grocery store workers who have died from COVID through April of 2021, 40,000 infected before Omicron, which is obviously everybody's gotten, but our grocery store workers are clearly don't have much of a choice about working and often catching COVID. And of course, healthcare workers are right in the thick of it, given what they do every day. And it doesn't behoove any of us to have sick employees at work because they have to work to pay their bills. They should be able to recover at home instead of having to feel the need to go to work and continue to spread the illness around. So from my perspective, adding these two categories of employees to our existing sick leave system is the right, just and the moral thing to do. And so I would hope we could do that. So that's my short version. I'm sure there's some people in support, and I'm sure there's some people against.
All right. All those in favor of the bill, would you please line up? Please have a seat, identify yourself, and speak into the mic.
Good morning again. My name is Kayla Mock with United Food and Commercial. Thank you. Workers Union Local 400. We represent over 13,000 members in grocery, food processing, healthcare, distribution. I appreciate Senator Serval talking about the healthcare worker or the grocery workers who have passed from COVID. My whole family works in grocery. It was very unnerving at the beginning of the pandemic to see them going in full PPE. No one goes to work in a grocery store for this to happen. I've seen grocery workers going in sick, nausea, vomiting, even once witnessing a worker with chicken pox working in the deli because they couldn't afford to take off. There was an article a few weeks ago in Yahoo Finance that said that, it was called Just Wear a Mask and Don't Tell Anyone. And 2/3 of workers surveyed in the months leading up to Omicron surge said they did not stay home when they were feeling sick. And that poses a huge threat to our communities and the most vulnerable amongst us. This also applies to part-time workers. Part-time workers their hours can range from 0 to 5 to 35, and companies often use that as leverage to strip them of things like this. Part-time workers get sick too, and they deserve access to sick time as well.
Thank you so much, and I will tell you that food service workers through this past 2 years are heroes, and we appreciate everything you did.
Well, we appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Kim Bobo, Virginia Interfaith. As you all know, we've supported this. I think this is really a fabulous bill. It has the right kind of policy. It extends this in a very modest way to very vulnerable folks. I think it's a great bill, and I urge your support. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bobo. Next.
Julia Newton, SEIU. We support all workers having paid sick days. Everybody gets sick, and everybody deserves to stay home until they recover. So we support this bill, and thank you, Senator Serville.
Thank you so much. And Senator Serville, could you, if you haven't already, could you update Senator Obenshain as to the amendments that we've made?
Okay.
Which bill are we on?
We're on my bill,
Three
which
five.
is the sick leave bill. I've taken out agency-directed healthcare workers, but I've expanded the grocery store workers to include stores that sell groceries, but not only groceries. So places like Walmart, Costco, etc. So and I did that at the request of the grocery stores. They still don't support the bill, but
And the enactment clause.
oh, yeah, and we had an enactment clause directing Dolly to develop guidance to the big stores about how to comply.
Okay, thank you very much. And now it's time to hear for those opposed to the bill.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Brent Rawlings, Virginia Hospital and Healthcare Association. Appreciate Senator Serville. We have had some conversations with him on this. Our primary concern relates to the provision on healthcare providers. Previously, this bill had some language that carved out part-time positions. In particular, with healthcare, it spoke to 30 hours per month. That language has been stricken and replaced with some language below that is 30 hours per month with a waiver. We do have very liberal paid time leave benefits for our full-time workers. Not all part-time workers have that. Those are typically managed through shifts. Obviously, if someone is sick, particularly with COVID, they can't come into work, and that managed very well. We do note that there are provisions in here that we are very favorable of, carving out the pro rata or as needed basis workers that come in and work maybe one shift, 1 or 2 a week. So primary concern again is related to those lines 69 through 74. We're seeking some sort of an exception for part-time workers defined at 30 hours or less per week.
I'd have this question. Some part-time workers, that's exactly what they are. Part-time workers, they do other things. They do childcare. They don't do anything if they don't want to. There are others who are working this part-time job and another part-time job and a third part-time job, and they get left out in the cold. Because of situations where we don't honor part-time work in that way. What would you say your familiarity is with the nature of your part-time workforce?
I can't speak, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, can't speak for every worker. I think, again, in our experience working in the hospitals specifically, I can't speak for all healthcare settings, but in the hospitals, those part-time arrangements, nurses may or may not have another job. Again, we've been working very well with them and haven't been aware of any major problems in the hospitals. So that's probably the best answer I can provide. But understand what you're asking, and again, just going back to some of the language that was here previously, that put some limits around a number of hours per week or number of hours per month seemed like an appropriate balance to us.
Thank you very much. Others who are in opposition to the bill?
Mr. Chairman, Alex Thorpe on behalf of the Virginia Food Industry Association. We represent 530 retail grocery store locations across the Commonwealth and over 600,000 employees. We do have concerns with the bill. The last 2 years have been particularly challenging for the grocery store industry. We're dealing with rising prices and inflation, very severe staffing challenges. We think a uniform paid sick leave policy like this applied across the board just to grocery stores. And we recognize the patron's amendment to include stores that also sell groceries. But if we're trying to implement a policy statewide for frontline workers, I don't think this covers all the frontline workers. And we would have concerns also with the enactment clause, passing legislation and then essentially trying to figure out how it's going to be implemented before or after it goes into effect. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Thorpe. Appreciate it. Do you have any questions, Senator Serval?
I can wrap up though.
All right. Anyone else in opposition? If not, Senator Serval, please
Thanks.
wrap up. And
Yeah, I just want to highlight for the grocery stores called me over the weekend and explained to me how carving out the Targets and Walmarts and Costco's of the world, because they weren't in the original bill, it would create a competitive disadvantage within the grocery store industry and the competitive pressures that the grocery stores are dealing with right now. And that's why I felt like it was necessary to add Walmart and Target, et cetera. And I know that creates an additional complexity, but I thought that was the fair thing to do if we're going to adopt this policy. And so I think the only way to deal with that situation is to just give guidance via Dolly, and I think that should help compliance. But anyway,
well, prior to full committee, would you have an opportunity to flesh that out for the full committee a little bit as to the potential for solving that problem?
Potentially. I mean, I guess there could be some statutory language we could amend to try and provide a little bit of clarity. I'm sort of have to think about that to see if there's a way to do it. But it strikes me that there's so much nuance within that issue that regulatory guidance might be the better way to go to flesh it out rather than to chisel it all into code. But I'll noodle it.
Well, I just want to make sure that the regulatory pathway forward or is clear, that it's doable.
I'll run it by Dolly.
Okay, thank you very much.
So in any event, other than that, I believe this is a very modest, small increase. It doesn't apply sick leave to the whole world. It just focuses it on people that are on the front lines every day, who I think are in a position where they're likely to get sick more than everybody else, and also obviously our healthcare workers are in a situation where they can get other people sick who don't need to be sick. So.
Could I ask a question of someone who's in favor of the bill from the grocery store workers? My understanding, and I could be off base, is that grocery stores have a very, very high number of part-time employees as opposed to full-time employees. Is that?
Yes, I think it depends on the company. However, companies do tend to use part-time labor as flexible. It also helps them drive down labor costs. I would say probably now it's about a 60-40 split, part-time, full-time.
Which is the 60?
Part-time, 40.
40.
Yeah, but again, it depends on the company and the labor standards.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Okay. Senator Marsden, having said that, I'd move to recommend reporting and referring my bill to finance, even though they haven't asked for it yet, but it's coming.
Do we have a second? I'll second. All right. We have the bill before us as amended. Clerk, would you call the roll?
Senator Marsden.
Aye.
Senator Obenshain. No. Senator Servo.
Aye.
2 ayes, 1 no.
Okay.
2 ayes, 1 no. The bill is recommended to the full committee 2-1 to report.
Thanks. Now give me my gavel back.
Make your case for it.
Ladies and gentlemen of the committee, I've
George, I've emailed for George to get here.
So Senator Marsden, through the magic of the internet, my staff has told me Senator Barker's not going to be able to make it, and he's asked that we recess to 30 minutes after we get off the floor, which I know you're chairing a committee at that point. I'm getting shaky.
I'll be in Commerce and Energy. House.
Oh, House Commerce and Energy. Great.
So where are we on this bill?
Hold on. Let's go at ease for a second so we can figure out what to do. Senator Barker, I'm not sure if he can get here or not. Let me go figure out what he's doing. Maybe we have to just take it up without him. Hold on. Let's go at ease for a second.
Deadline?
Friday, Monday.
He was looking at a minor tweak that I'd been working with. Fine by me.
Yeah. Okay. So, okay, committee will come back to order. So, I think what we're going to do is, in light of the fact that Senator Barker can't be here, we'll just refer this to committee without a recommendation. Senator Obenshain, get on the microphone. So,
I would be, if there was a second, I would be happy to move to recommend reporting as is.
Senator Marsden.
But I think we have another option to do it then. Let's wait. As long as the timing works out, I think we can go that direction.
Okay, so Senator Marsden, do you have a motion? Is that a proper motion for a subcommittee?
I believe you just make no motion.
It just sits there.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Okay. Does anybody want to be heard on that?
Mr. Chairman, Edward Mullen, representing the chamber. So is the posture that you have referred it without recommendation to the full committee for hearing on Monday?
Yeah. I mean, I believe the
So
bill
it's
is.
not sitting in the subcommittee, it's in the full committee.
I don't think bills sit in subcommittee in the Senate. They all are just in full committee. So we're not like that other place. So, okay. All right, if that's not the case, then we'll do something on the floor to deal with it. But I'm pretty sure that's the case. Okay? So I guess our work's done for the day. The committee will rise.